Why did Taehyung wait so long to send that message? The hidden letter that reached Jungkook's barracks and changed everything. Did Jungkook cry when he read it? Why did Taehyung keep the message hidden for weeks? And why is this one letter now being called the turning point in BTS's military era? There's more to this message than anyone knew, and it begins with silence, guilt, and an aching promise left unspoken and the stillness of a military night. Inside the cold barracks that smell of sweat, wood, and quiet exhaustion, Jungkook sat with his eyes fixed on a crumpled piece of paper. His bunkmates were fast asleep. The lights had been dimmed for hours, yet he hadn't blinked in what felt like an eternity. The edges of the paper trembled slightly in his hands, and though his lips didn't move, his heart did. Every beat echoed with words he hadn't heard in weeks, words from someone whose silence had grown louder than the explosions in the training grounds. The message was from Taehyung. Not an official military update, not a casual letter. It was something different, something raw. And for Jungkook, who had waited too long without knowing why, it was everything. But the real question wasn't why Taehyung sent it was why now, and what it really meant. Because the story behind the letter, the secret reason Taehyung took so long to write it, and the impact it had on Jungkook once it arrived, is far deeper, more emotional, and more haunting than anyone imagined. And it starts far from the barracks. It starts in guilt. The day Taehyung walked away from the desk. Weeks before the letter was ever sealed, Taehyung sat in his assigned dormitory room at the training center, staring at the empty sheet of paper in front of him. A standard-issue ballpoint pen rested in his fingers. The military had given them scheduled hours to write to loved ones. Most of his fellow recruits scribbled eagerly, to families, partners, childhood friends. But Taehyung had only one person in mind, Jungkook. And yet, the page remained blank. Why? Why would the man who used to text Jungkook with random midnight thoughts and "you up?" messages, the same Taehyung who once sang harmony while Jungkook tuned his guitar, now sit there unable to write even a single word? The truth was complicated, painful, and tied to something Taehyung hadn't been ready to admit to anyone, not even himself. The night Taehyung overheard something he wasn't supposed to. It wasn't an accident. Taehyung had been walking past the break room in the camp when he heard a group of senior officers talking. They didn't know he was there. He paused for a moment, not to eavesdrop, but because one word caught his attention. Busan. Then another name. Jungkook. His blood ran cold. They say the kid's been quieter lately. Not sleeping well either. Looks like he's not getting letters, one of the voices said. I heard his team checks twice a day, but nothing's been coming in. Pause. He's close with that Kim Taehyung, right? Strange, isn't it? Strange. The word hit Taehyung like a blow to the chest. He didn't finish his walk that night. He went back to his room and stared at the same blank page, now heavier than ever. What had he done? Or maybe the better question was, what hadn't he done? Inside Jungkook's loneliest week, at Camp Busan, military schedules don't leave much room for emotions. Recruits rise at dawn, march, eat, train, collapse. It's a rhythm designed to keep the heart occupied so the mind doesn't wander. But Jungkook's mind had been wandering anyway. Every time the mail came, he hoped. Every time it didn't, he smiled anyway. But his bunkmates noticed. The boy who used to hum under his breath as he laced up his boots had gone silent. The soldier who used to eat the fastest now stared at his tray too long when asked if he was okay. He laughed and said, "Just tired." But the truth? He was wondering. Wondering why the one person he thought would reach out hadn't. Had he done something wrong? Was Taehyung upset? Was he hurt? Was he forgetting? Or worse, was he choosing silence? Jungkook had no answers. Only that empty ache that comes when someone you love disappears without explanation. The message that almost wasn't. Back in his own barracks, Taehyung finally picked up the pen. The weight of guilt sat on his chest like a sandbag. He wanted to write something light, something casual, but nothing felt right. Everything he tried to say felt like so instead, he wrote what was true. And this is what he wrote, or at least, the part that leaked after Jungkook's fellow soldier shared what he witnessed that night. I'm sorry for being so late. I've started this message 100 times. I erased every version because I didn't think anything I could say would be enough. But I miss you. That's the only truth I know how to write. And I'm scared you don't believe that anymore. There was more. A line that made Jungkook's hands shake when he read it. I thought I had to be strong. That being silent would make you strong too. but it just made me feel like a ghost. And finally this. If you hate me right now, I understand, but please don't forget that there's someone in this uniform who still thinks of you every night when the lights go out. He folded it with shaking hands. He walked to the mailbox with a heartbeat that hurt, and he sent it. The witness who heard Jungkook cry, what happened the night the letter arrived, has now become something of a whispered story inside the barracks. Not many were awake, but one soldier, a young recruit from another unit, had been coming back from night duty when he passed by Jungkook's door and heard something that froze him in place. It wasn't a sound of distress. It wasn't loud. It was quiet. The sound of someone trying not to cry. Jungkook hadn't made a sound in training for days. He was known for his composure, but that night the young soldier paused and heard the unmistakable sound of tears. And in the morning, Jungkook was different. The shift. How one message brought back the old Jungkook. It didn't happen immediately, but something changed. His posture was a little more upright, and he smiled a bit more during drills. And during break time, someone saw him quietly humming to himself again, something soft, maybe even something from an old BTS song. When asked if he was okay, he just nodded and said, "I got something in the mail." No further explanation, but the light in his eyes had returned. That was enough. Why Taehyung waited? The real reason hidden in the message's timing. Some fans speculated that Taehyung was waiting for a special occasion. Others thought he may have been restricted by camp rules. But a source close to Taehyung's family, who wished to remain anonymous, revealed something heartbreaking. Taehyung had been suffering from vocal cord strain and insomnia during his early training weeks. He didn't want to worry anyone, especially not Jungkook, so he kept silent. Not out of forgetfulness, but out of fear that if he showed weakness, it would make Jungkook feel helpless too. He wanted to protect him by staying strong. He just didn't realize that silence was its own kind of wound. The aftershock, fans in tears as the message goes public. When fans learned about the letter, partially through leaked text, partially through insider commentary, social media exploded. #Taehyung letter trended for 72 hours. Armies around the world began posting their own versions of what they imagined Taehyung had written. Some wrote poems. Others shared drawings of Jungkook alone in the barracks, with a folded letter close to his heart. One fan wrote, "We always talk about how strong they are, but this shows that even the strongest still bleed inside. This letter is love in its most fragile, beautiful form." A hidden message within the message? Eagle-eyed fans noticed something strange. If you read the first word of each paragraph in Taehyung's letter, it spelled something. Some believe it was accidental. Others think it was intentional. But either way, it added another layer of heartbreak to a message already soaked in longing. Where do they go from here? The military keeps them apart. That's the reality. Different bases, different commands, different schedules. But the letter changed something between them. And now fans are wondering, will Jungkook write back? Or has he already? Some insiders claim that a reply was sent last week. But no one knows what it says. All we know is this: one letter, one message. And suddenly the silence is no longer so loud.